40 days, every morning, the same ritual. The Philistine champion descends from his camp to the valley floor, and his voice carries across to Israel's side. Same challenge, same words, same silence from Israel. This is not a story about two armies preparing for war. This is a story about 40 mornings of slow psychological collapse. Goliath doesn't need to kill anyone. He's already winning. Every morning, Israel doesn't answer. Is another morning the Philistines take without drawing a sword. Every sunrise that passes in silence is a defeat. The text says the men of Israel saw Goliath and they fled from him, and they were sore afraid. That's the phrase, sore afraid. Not strategizing, not regrouping, not looking for an angle, running, terrified. These are the same men who had fought for Saul for years, trained soldiers, armed, experienced, and for 40 days they ran. Then a teenager arrives carrying lunch for his brothers. His name is Goliath of Gath. The text gives his measurements with the care of a legal document. Over 9 feet tall. His bronze coat of armor alone weighs 5,000 shekels, roughly 60 kilograms of metal on his body. His iron spearhead weighs another 600 shekels. His shield bearer walks ahead of him. He is less a man than a weapon system. Every morning for 40 days, he has walked to the valley floor and said the same thing. Choose a man for yourselves. Let him come down to me. If he is able to fight with me and kill me, then we will be your servants. But if I prevail against him and kill him, then you shall be our servants. This is a formal legal challenge, binding by the customs of warfare at the time. One battle. Winner takes all. And for 40 days, no one in Israel has been willing to take it. David arrives. He's not a soldier. He's been in Bethlehem watching his father's sheep, while his older brothers serve in Saul's army. His father Jesse sends him to the front with food. 10 loaves of bread, 10 cheeses for the commanders, roasted grain for his brothers. He is a delivery boy. He leaves his supplies with the keeper. He runs to the battle line to greet his brothers, and he hears Goliath's voice for the first time. His first reaction is not fear, it is offense. Who is this uncircumcised Philistine, that he should defy the armies of the living God? Note what he is not calculating. He is not calculating the height difference. He is not calculating the weight of Goliath's armor against his own. He is calculating something else entirely. This man has blasphemed. He has called out the army of the living God, and no one has responded. That is the offense. That is the thing David cannot let pass. His oldest brother Eliab hears him asking around and gets angry. Why did you come down here? And with whom have you left those few sheep in the wilderness? I know your pride and the naughtiness of your heart. You came down to see the battle. This is not a minor detail. David's own family dismisses him. The person who has known him longest assumes the worst. Go home. You don't belong here. This is for real soldiers. David's answer is calm. What have I done now? Was it not just a question? And he turns to someone else and asks the same thing. They bring him to Saul. Saul looks at this teenager and says exactly what logic requires him to say. You are not able to go against this Philistine to fight with him, for you are just a youth, and he has been a warrior since his youth. David's response doesn't argue the odds. He tells his history. Your servant has kept his father's sheep, and when a lion came or a bear and took a lamb from the flock, I went out after it and struck it and delivered the lamb from its mouth. And if it arose against me, I caught it by its beard and struck it and killed it. Your servant has killed both lions and bears, and this uncircumcised Philistine shall be like one of them, for he has defied the armies of the living God, the Lord who delivered me from the paw of the lion and from the paw of the bear. He will deliver me from the hand of this Philistine. He is not being reckless. He has a theology. He has done this before, and he knows who was doing it through him. Saul agrees. He puts his own armor on David. Bronze helmet, coat of mail, sword. David tries to walk. He can't. He's never worn armor in his life, and Saul's armor was made for a different body. He takes it all off. He picks up his shepherd's staff. He goes to the brook and chooses 5 smooth stones and puts them in his shepherd's bag. He takes his sling, and he walks toward Goliath. Goliath sees him coming and is insulted. "Am I a dog that you come to me with sticks?" He curses David. He makes promises about what he'll do to the body. David says back, "You come to me with a sword, and with a spear, and with a javelin. But I come to you in the name of the Lord of armies, the God of the armies of Israel, whom you have defied. Stop and hear what's happening." Goliath has defined this as a weapons contest, sword against sword, size against size. His calculation is correct by every visible measure. He is bigger, heavier, more experienced, better armored. By any human accounting of the situation, David loses, but David has defined it differently. Goliath brought weapons. David brought authority. They are not having the same fight. Goliath sees a shepherd boy with a stick. David sees a blasphemer against the living God, and a blasphemer against the living God has already lost. The only question is how long the conclusion takes to arrive. Then David does what no one expects. He doesn't approach cautiously. He doesn't wait for Goliath to come to him. He runs. He reaches into his bag, takes 1 stone, slings it. The stone sinks into Goliath's forehead. The giant falls face first to the ground. 1 stone, 40 days. Done. This story is not about David's courage. He doesn't need encouragement to be brave. He already is. It's not about the power of positive thinking or believing in yourself. It's about what David knows that Goliath doesn't. Goliath's error is not underestimating David. Goliath's error is misidentifying the fight. He thinks he's in a contest of strength. He's actually in a confrontation with the God who made him. Once that's the case, the outcome was already set before David reached the valley. The same valley, 2 completely different realities, 2 men, 2 definitions of what was actually happening. One of them was right. Whatever is standing in front of you right now, defying you, telling you you're too small, too late, not equipped enough. The question isn't whether you have the right weapons. The question is, whose name are you fighting in? And have you misidentified the fight? Leave that in the comments. Not the Sunday school answer, your actual situation. What is the Goliath in your life telling you about yourself right now? Because the text suggests the problem might not be the giant size. The problem might be whose name you walked in with. Every week, 1 story, exactly as written. 66 books. We're still on the opening line. We are the called. Stay awake. Stay with us.
My hope, my song, my King. Forever I will sing. You're all I want, my everything. Only you are holy. Only you are true. All my life I'm given. All my praise to you. Jesus, my everything, my hope, my song.